Not one person on this entire set has any idea who is playing neither of the two teams both. Are we ready to figure this out? We've been waiting all day.
Yeah.
Home team up first. It will be on November 20th, as you see.
Okay.
The Kansas City Chiefs,
Okay.
the reigning defending Super Bowl champions, will play host to.
Is it the?
It'll be the.
Oh, okay.
The rematch.
How did we not guess the rematch?
Of course.
I thought it was too obvious.
We thought outside the box all day about this, and we couldn't come up with a Super Bowl rematch.
Oh.
Wow, that is a sick game.
Yeah, first thought when I say Super Bowl rematch is?
Well, we finally get to see, hopefully, Jalen Hurts have the ball in his hands with the game on the line near the end, because we got robbed of it last year. So both teams, we think, are going to be repeat, at least championship game contenders in their respective conferences. So I am fired up. And also, we know the Eagles defense is going to be super young. This gives them a little bit of time defensively to settle in before we get into the back half of November. That's a good one.
I'm really interested in this from a coaching perspective. In the Super Bowl, Andy Reid put on a masterclass against the then defensive coordinator in the Philadelphia Eagles, Jonathan Gannon. No longer there. Now they've got Sean Desai as a defensive coordinator. They're going to be watching that Super Bowl a lot to get ready for this game, but who knows what to expect when these two teams
I mean, when I've been gone for a minute, I'm going to the line of scrimmage. The differing ways that they play football. Listen, this Kansas City secondary is one that we have some questions about, and we know AJ is on the other side and Devontae, but the physicality of the Philadelphia Eagles run game. We saw it take a little bit of shape. Remember, the time of possession in that Super Bowl was very favorable towards the Philadelphia Eagles. I want to see if the Kansas City Chiefs has re-solidified the interior of their defensive line, trying to take care of this run game.
That's a good game.
That reveal right there, not the only surprise here at NFL Live, is we have a surprise guest who is joining us right now, and you know him already. It is the voice of Monday Night Football.
No way.
Mr. Joe Buck, of course.
So big.
Calling the games every Monday night.
Oh my God. Hey.
Joe, just a ho-hum November game for you and Troy to call. What are your thoughts on this Super Bowl rematch? Should be pretty boring.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. I cannot believe that we are the network that gets to call that. I mean, every network put their 2 cents in to try and get it, and we got it. It's exciting. To Troy and me, we were talking on the phone this morning, and like two little kids comparing Christmas presents on Christmas morning. It was like, man, we got the Super Bowl rematch, and then we start the season the way we started. I've done a million Eagles games. I've obviously been there, and we've all watched this Kansas City team just dominate over the last handful of years. So you just can't go wrong. Now you just pray for health, and you pray for these two teams to play like we expect them to, and it's going to be a hell of a night in Week 11.
Yeah, and Joe, you've called a lot of the games, witnessing the growth of Jalen Hurts. He has now kind of emerged as one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the NFL. Can this become sort of a signature-type moment, him and Patrick Mahomes going against each other on the biggest regular season stage?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, time will tell, but these are, if they're not the 2 most exciting young quarterbacks, I don't know who else you would throw in there. There are some other options, but for these two guys to go head-to-head after a 38-35 Super Bowl, and like you said, Field, it just felt like whoever was going to get the ball last was going to win that Super Bowl. Dan talked about it too. I just felt like, hey, you wanted to see Philly have one more crack at it at the end of that Super Bowl. Now they get to start fresh, and we'll be there documenting every second of it.
Hey, Joe, have you called a Super Bowl rematch before? I know you've called the NFL forever. Have you ever called one in the regular season coming off of the previous Super Bowl? Ever called a rematch before?
I don't think Troy and I have. I feel like that was always kind of funneled toward a Sunday night crowd or somewhere else, either Fox or CBS, and I guess it wouldn't have been us because we would have been doing it. So that's exciting to us. And I was sitting there watching and hanging on every second of that Super Bowl. And, well, now we get to call it here in 2023.
You know, Joe, obviously with your time at Fox, so many of your games skewed towards the NFC for so many years. What's it been like calling some of Patrick Mahomes' moments in more recent years here?
It's been great. Doing Thursday Night Football there before he and I left, Troy and I left, I think kind of prepared us to get ready for the other conference. But, we did 6 Super Bowls together, and every year it was like you're playing catch up with the AFC side. I mean, we had done every NFC game that typically the Super Bowl representative from the NFC had played in, especially in the playoffs. And then it's like, oh, hey, here's a team from the AFC. We got to dig in on them. But now I feel like we're a little bit more balanced in our coverage. And so it's been nice. It's been nice to get over and see Kansas City a little bit more often. And some of those teams, the Chargers, I don't know. Maybe I've seen a sneak peek of some portion of the schedule. Maybe the Chargers would be a good team for us to have paid attention to.
Okay.
I don't know.
Writing that one
Little
down.
teaser.
Marcus, in this matchup, you think about, we know the two offenses should be extremely effective, but for the Eagles specifically, they lost a lot of pieces on that defense. Have they done enough to adequately replace the likes of Javon Hargrave and their two linebackers who left in free agency?
Well, youth is going to be served defensively. You talk about Nakobe Dean is going to get a lot of his first-time real action. Obviously, they drafted Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith came from the Georgia defense of the Philadelphia
Jordan Davis
Eagles.
last year.
Jordan Davis last year. The only thing you worry about, right, is we always talk about a Super Bowl hangover. You worry about these guys pressing too much because they want to prove that they are as good as the guys that were there before them. And it makes you prone to mistakes. It makes you prone to those things. So it'll be good that this game is November 20th, number one, because by that time, everybody should be settled in to who they absolutely are on this defense. But it'd be interesting to see Philly grow as this year goes along. I think man for man, they still are the most talented team in the NFC. But now it's about youth and how they handle high leverage moments. Coming off of a Super Bowl pressurizes your situation a lot when you come into the next season.
Toss on it, I'm in.
I might pass on that, but generally speaking.
If you pay me enough, I'll eat the cockroach, though.
It sounds like something you'll eat.
All right, Joe, we're going to go back to you in just a couple of moments. And while this was the second Monday Night Football game that we have revealed, the first one came earlier today. And how about this for a start to Monday Night Football, Week 1? Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets playing host to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. A massive matchup when both quarterbacks finished in the top 3 in QBR, plus wins and touchdown passes over the past 3 seasons. Of course, Aaron Rodgers won 2 MVPs in that time as well. First Monday Night Football showdown between these two AFC East foes since, get this, 1992, a game where Jim Kelly threw a touchdown in the final minute for Buffalo to prevail. And all right, this one really gets you excited here, Joe. What a way for you and Troy to start this upcoming season. What do you expect to see from Aaron Rodgers out there and what will be his Jets debut?
I think he'll play great. You see that he's invested in the offseason program. It's been a little while for him doing that in Green Bay. I think he knows that the end chunk of his career is on the line here, and how he walks out of the game will be defined by what he does with the Jets. He's got weapons. He's got a good defense. He's got a good head coach. He's got an offensive coordinator that he's familiar with and likes. They've added pieces here, obviously, to go with what they already had. There's Billy Turner's on that list, a guy who, if Aaron Rodgers didn't think he could play, he wouldn't be on this team right now. So he helps that offensive line. I think he is going to play great. And that's a team, everybody, it's kind of the easy pick right now, the sexy pick because Aaron Rodgers is there. I think it's a legit pick because I think he's all in.
I totally agree. And I think the biggest reason why is there's not really this learning curve that everyone continues to talk about, either for Aaron or this offense. This offense that Mike LaFleur, their offensive coordinator of last year, ran is the same offense that Nathaniel Hackett. I'm not a betting man. It's May 11th. I'd bet that he goes over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's invested into the offseason. I guarantee you he's going to play some preseason snaps. He's going to come out, and the reality is this. He understands the urgency in this division and this conference. You cannot start slow because the conference is so deep. So I agree with Joe. I think he comes out with a very specific mission and that chip on his shoulder.
Deservedly, Aaron Rodgers is going to get the headlines, but how important is the Jets defense in this Week 1 matchup against a great Bills offense?
The Jets defense is a huge part of why this team is considered a contender.
Yes.
Why Aaron Rodgers joined this team, because they were excellent last year. This is one of the deepest and most talented defensive fronts in football. So I'm very curious to see Week 1 how Buffalo looks against this defensive front in particular, because the last time we saw Josh Allen in the playoffs, he was pressured on 38% of dropbacks. That was the second most of any of the 14 playoff quarterbacks. Some of that was on the pass protection. Some of it was on Josh Allen, holding onto the football too long, trying to force the ball downfield. So I'm going to be very curious to see him and Ken Dorsey week 1, how they advance in the quick game. Is Josh willing to check it down? Do they look more multiple with the addition of Dalton Kincaid? Just how has this offense evolved from what we saw at the
in the 2 games they played last year? I think the Jets defense gave up like 17 and 20 versus that offense.
Yeah, best they played.
You're a betting man. How much you want to bet he don't throw for 303 touchdowns?
Yeah,
At least.
I know.
That week
Dan's
one game,
he's on a heater right now with these bets.
I know.
$200.
$200. That's a bet. Everybody saw it.
Me and I will join for dinner, whoever wins.
Because here's what I think about early in the season, especially, right? It's great that Aaron is there in this offseason to build rapport. Coincidentally, somebody said that all last year, and it wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
That would be me, babyface. Here's the
else
thing.
is new?
I think it's going to be a low-scoring game.
Okay.
And the reason I believe it's going to be a low-scoring game is because both of these remember, Von Miller is going to be healthy. Yes. We don't know yet the protection of what the Jets are really going to be. I know we all are optimistic about that offensive line, but we don't know yet how that offensive line is going to come together. There is no question in my mind that the Jets will have a top 3 defense in the league this year.
Correct.
No doubt about it. But when you think about the Buffalo Bills, they got Hyde back, Poyer's back. They were a banged-up unit last year as well, let alone losing the guys. I want to see how they replace the linebacker, but outside of that, I think it's going to be low scoring because defense is usually ahead of offense at that point of the season.
Joe, we're going to see you on our schedule release show later tonight. But before we let you go from NFL Live, besides the games, what more do we have to be excited about for Monday Night Football this season?
I think flex scheduling, that's a game changer for those of us in the TV business. I don't know that the fans really get the whole picture, but all due respect to the Indianapolis Colts, but I think we had them 9 times in the second half of the season last year, and getting a team that's not in it on a standalone night, I think is a bit of a challenge. So being able to shift that and make changes to the schedule later on in the year, if we have to, is nice. And then we get an extra playoff game. We're in the division round this year, so it's going to be a great year on Monday Night Football.
So we know 2 of the 18 games that you're going to call over the course of the upcoming season, Joe. Not a bad start. We've got Aaron Rodgers facing off against the Buffalo Bills, and then a Super Bowl rematch. Pretty decent right there. Joe, we'll talk to you again later on tonight.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.